Book review. Book review. Well, hello there, everybody. Happy October, Shocktober, Halloween season. We are doing, as always, this year, KBVC loves to watch the classic Universal monster movies. And I got a book review, as you might have seen. We are looking at the Universal Studios We are looking at the Universal Studios Monsters. I have the window open. I should probably close it because it's very loud, but I turned the heat on for the first time. It's very stinky. Universal Studios Monsters: A Legacy of Horror by Michael Mallory, forward by Jason Blumhouse. And this is the revised and updated edition, Back from the Dead. I think I'll try and take photos of this rather than trying to do the hold up to the camera. Back from the Dead edition. For the 90th anniversary of Dracula, the 90th anniversary of Frankenstein, and the 80th anniversary of the Wolfman. Boom, 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 boom. And we've got all our classics there. Dracula, The Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Wolfman, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and Phantom of the Opera, the Lon Chaney version. And then there's Frankenstein's Monsters Eyes there. Like I said before, Frankenstein is the visual face of Universal Monsters, and you can kind of see right there. Universal Studios, home of the original monsters. And then that scene from when he walks into the door. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say that the best part of this book, where it gets his money, is all of the photographs inside. Some great black and white photos. That's my favorite part of the book. The book. Okay. And, it has a foreword by Jason Blum, who is pretty much the go-to guy for horror movies right now, especially Universal ones. It seems like, every 10 years you kind of go through a cycle of who Universal tries to hook up with to get, or the horror scene just seems like everything comes out of their production company. It was like in the 70s it was the Hammer Horror, and then the 80s it was New Line, and then plus other things. But then in the 90s it was Dimension Films, Miramax? I don't, whoever, the Scream movies and the Kevin Williams and everything went through them, and then now everything, and then I can't remember what happened in the early thousands, the knots, and then it's kind of come on to bloom. I mean, you can see it with the Halloween franchise because it was Halloween, and then it was the Dimension Films, and then it was Blumhouse kind of thing. Anyway, so he's taken on the idea of restarting the series. They always are trying to bring back these guys, and he is the current guy trying to help them with that. It's kind of like how the reason he's doing this, it's not that he doesn't have anything important to say or that he's not a good person to have talk about this, but it's kind of like when the DVDs came out and it was like all Stephen Sommers, and now since Jason Blum's in the charge, it's him, which great for him. Good job, buddy. Doing a great job. Keep it up. Pretty nice. It starts off with like the history, Hollywood's House of Horrors, bom, bom, bom. And it gives you the history of Universal Studios at that point, how it was formed by Carl Laemmle, how his son took charge, and all that stuff. Some beautiful photos and the thing, and then it goes talks about the silent movies, Hunchback of Notre Dame, basically Lon Chaney, and it talks a little bit about Phantom of the Opera, and talks a little bit about the Claude Rains Phantom of the Opera, and then it showed movies like Cat and the Canary, The Man Who Laughs. So it's just interesting because I haven't seen a lot of those, so that's interesting. Where this book is interesting is if you don't have the box set, or the Shout Factory, Scream Factory has a Universal horror collection that has like the B movies on there that aren't tied into your major monsters. If you haven't seen any of those or any of the silent movies, it's a pretty interesting book. And then it goes through, it gives you, it's basically broken up by monsters, actor, and then spotlight characters, the rest of the book. So then you got like spotlight of Lon Chaney starts off because he's, the first guy to get behind well, he's not the first guy, but he's the most famous of this era for doing the monster makeup and changing his face and stuff like that. The man of 1,000 faces. And then it goes on to Dracula, does the chapter for the monster Dracula, and then it goes through each of the movie. And so it tells you the movie, and then for the first one, Dracula, it does quite a bit on there. But basically it does a synopsis of the movie, and then gives you about 2 or 3 paragraphs of about the movie. The first ones they've got a little bit more. It's more of a pretty good, pretty good chunk there of information about Dracula. And they add the Spanish version. It's always nice. For as long as I have been collecting the Universal Monster DVDs, they have always included the Spanish version of Dracula. Which is quite nice. And I think it's because people around that time were like, oh, well, this is actually a superior movie. Which, if you want to hear about that, go listen to my Spanish language Dracula video. And then it goes through all the movies, Dracula's Daughter. Gives you some nice little, it's like tidbits of information. And then Son of Dracula and House of Dracula. And a spotlight on Bela Lugosi. Bela. Goes through his... Sorry, got distracted by reading. It's such a great book. I got distracted by reading. It tells you about them. And these guys are like they basically get two full pages of a person's life, centered mostly around the Universal movies. But basically, you get a nice little thing, and then Frankenstein's monster goes through Frankenstein monster, then all the sequels. Bride of Frankenstein gets a little bit more love than the rest of them, and it goes through some. I don't know. I don't need to say all of them, do I? I always say that, and then I go ahead and do it anyway. Ghost of Frankenstein, House of Frankenstein. No, they don't do House of Frankenstein in the Frankenstein thing, but it's really nice. They go and then spotlight on Boris Karloff. Of course, I mean, he's a major point in Universal Monsters. Very, very influential character. Then we go into the Wolfman, the Werewolf of London series. I don't know why they decided to put House of Frankenstein in with the Wolfman, but they did. So there. So if you're like reading it in the Frankenstein part, and you're like, what? Where is this sequel? Why isn't it included? Don't worry, it is in there. Not only do you get the lovely still photographs and stuff, but there's a lot of press release information there. And there is color also. I mean, it's not all black and white. Just so you know. And then they also do other people rather than the actors, like Kurt Siodmark. I'm not saying that. Soidmak. There's no R there. Soidmak. Who was, of course, a novelist and screenwriter, specifically The Wolfman, and a lot of other things. And of course, we talk about The Mummy. He did like 7 films and goes into it. Each one quite a bit, even though, Mummy's Tomb and Mummy's Ghost are quite a bit similar. And there's not a whole lot. If you look at them, was in 1944 was Mummy's Ghost, and 1940, I think Mummy's Tomb was Mummy's Tomb 1942. Okay, Mummy's Ghost 1944, and then Mummy's Curse 1944. So there wasn't a whole lot of production in between it. And then get some nice Lon Chaney Jr. for skipping on to The Invisible Man. And I gotta say, they show a lot of the production videos, production photos, not production photos, but the advertising photos they always have for there. I'll try and take a picture of it too, but they show the outline of the Invisible Man. They kind of give you like a little glass see-through thing. But he's always wearing clothes. He's always wearing a suit. And if you watch the Invisible Man, he's naked. That's the whole point. You can't see him. But, I mean, there he is wearing pants and shoes and a jacket. It's just kind of funny. He might actually be wearing a tie. I think he's wearing a tie. But when they do the Invisible Woman there, yeah, she doesn't look like she's wearing anything. I mean, I guess in that one you can kind of see a little bit of a like a swimsuit edge type thing or whatever, but she's not wearing a full dress, I don't think. And it's just kind of not that they're showing anything, not that they're implying that she is nude. They're just not, there's definitely no, well, I guess she's wearing shoes. And I guess there's a line there that could be considered a skirt. But it's like the men are wearing a full-fledged suit, and the woman is not. So anyway, it's kind of ridiculous because he's not wearing a suit. Una O'Connor gets her own little spotlight, which I love Una O'Connor's performance in The Invisible Man and The Bride of Frankenstein. I don't know what other classic horror movies she did. She was kind of a Wales bit player. He cast her in a lot of things, which is fine. I love Una O'Connor, but I have a point to bring up later. Spotlight on John P. Fulton and special effects guy. And then it goes into the Creatures, Creepers, and Chillers. The minor known series that you don't get in this collection here, that are available on DVD, Blu-ray from Shout Factory or Scream Factory, whichever factory it is. It's the same store, so. And it goes into like Paula the Ape Woman series, and she's got about Captive Wild Woman, Jungle Captive, and then the Creeper. So it's basically the two. There's the Jungle, the Ape Lady, and then the Creeper with Rondo. What's Rondo's name? Rondo Hatton as the Creeper. And he did about 3 or 4. And he was, basically he was known because he had a condition, a glandular disorder called acromegaly. Started to enlarge and deform his face, hands, and body. So it was kind of billed as not needing monster makeup, because he had already an extremely distinctive and I guess you would say distorted. I don't know the right adjective to put in there. And then I'll bring this up just in case I can't get photos. There are 2 masks, or 2 statues of him, and then him there. If you don't know who Rondo is. Which, is kind of like, are they taking advantage of him? Of his or is he taking advantage of his illness? I mean, is he getting a job doing it? Unfortunately, because of that, he died earlier in his life, so he didn't make very many movies. And then the Inner Sanctum series, which was almost seems like the Inner Sanctum Mysteries, which came out as movies, but they almost seem like it was a precursor to like a television series, and it was just kind of like separate stories, but they all had Lon Chaney Jr. as the connective person and somebody who would introduce and narrate the whole thing. So there was a little more than like the serial before the show, like Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers, but not quite big A movie or B movie. Well, maybe B movie status. But it really seemed more like if TV had been around when they were doing these, it would have been like a straight-to-TV thing. Spotlight on Dwight Fry. Yay! We love Dwight. It is really sad about where his life ended. I mean, as we look at him, we know him from, Renfield as Dracula. You see him as Fritz in Frankenstein, or even Carl in The Bride of Frankenstein, and some other things. And it's just kind of like, I don't know why he kind of fell through the cracks there. And by the end of his life, during World War II, he was, helping out the war effort and getting a little money because the acting gigs were slim. by doing some mechanic stuff at an airplane factory. Let's see here. At Douglas Aircraft as a tool designer to support his wife and son, and also to aid the war effort, but remained intensely frustrated by the floundering career. He died getting on a bus, and the obituary, the person didn't do a very good job, just listed his career as occupation as being a tool designer or mechanic or whatever it is. To me, that is tragically sad for Dwight Fry, and he deserved more. I think he's getting more now in these days. You know, he got a nice big 2-page effort. And it goes on to Monsters, Madmen, Freaks of Science, and it's got the lesser known, or not necessarily connected. They're not series, they're kind of one-offs, even though there are several Poe-related ones like Murders of the Rue Morgue and The Black Cat, The Raven. But it's always, and they had, I'm assuming Karloff and Lugosi were contract players at this point, and so they just threw them in all of these horror movies. Black Friday, which if we made a Black Friday nowadays, it wouldn't be anything about like what this movie is. Man-Made Monster with Chaney. And a lot of Lionel Atwell. If you're a big Lionel Atwell fan, I would check out these lesser-known monster movies. This is where I found it more interesting, the synopsis, because it's like when they're reading about the big guys, you know, it's like, okay, I already know what the movie is. I don't need a 5-paragraph description of the movie and then a 2-paragraph description of the making of info. That's the one qualm I have, but I understand it also, because you're also making a book that maybe people aren't, you know, DVD watchers. You know, they just check them out whenever they're on. And it goes a little bit into the 50s at this point, where, you know, you're getting the tarantula and the mantis and the mole people, I think is what they said. No, Monster on Campus was officially the last, what they're considering, monster movie. Spotlight on James Whale, the director of Frankenstein, was our person this year. Frankenstein, monster. A lot of information about him. Sadly, he ended his life in the 50s. One of those things. A nice chapter on Abbott Costello, which I am a huge fan of. Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein. I watch that every year, rain or shine. I've actually watched it once already this year, and I'm going to watch it again. And then the other movies I have yet to get to. You know, where they meet the Invisible Man, meet Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, which I'm looking forward to because I heard listen to the Borgo Pass podcast episode on that, and it seemed really interesting. So I'm looking forward to watching that. And then, you know, The Mummy and whatever else they are. Because I do. I like Abbott Costello. And then they got a spotlight on the Rogues Gallery, and they go in through each person: Edward Van Sloan, Lionel Atwell, George Zucco, John Carradine, which is kind of surprising he got put in here since he was Dracula for 2 episodes. Frank Riker, Michael Mark, and Lawrence Grant, and Harry Cording, and Lionel Belmore, the Burgomaster. So that's why it was like nice that they gave Dwight Fry 2-page write-up rather than just sticking him in with the rest of the rogues. So it just shows how much love people have for Dwight Fry. Rightfully so. A nice spotlight on Jack Pierce, who, you know, may have not been the nicest of person, and his methods may have been a little rough on the actors, but the results are great. And he was really also a man of his times. They didn't have the resources that they have nowadays with the latex and stuff like that. Spotlight on Hans Salter, music mastermind. And then finally into the Gillman, because we're in the 50s now. So we're into the Gillman, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and his 2 sequels. Oh, I love this. The Creature from the Black Lagoon, he has, you know, hold the lady and 2 arms, but by the time the revenge of the creature, he's almost tripled in size, and he can hold a lady in his one hand. Basically, his hand is the size of the waist of a woman, which is not true. He's just the regular size thing. Oh, he also looks like he's got some huge shoulder pads there. Then the creature walks among us. He's not carrying a woman that time. He's throwing guys around. He's in San Francisco throwing men around instead of ladies. Insert Never mind. Then a spotlight on the Scream Queens, which, having just watched Frankenstein, and I was kind of like, well, Mae Clark should have a bigger input, a bigger spot. But no, it's like Gloria Stewart, Valerie Hobson, Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, Evelyn Ankers, who was in The Wolfman, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Captive Wild Woman, Son of Dracula, The Mad Ghoul, Weird Woman, Jungle Woman, The Invisible Man's Revenge, The Frozen Ghost, plus 20 other non-horror Universal pictures. I'm a big Evelyn Ankers fan, so I would have rather had a 2-page write-up of Evelyn Ankers than Una O'Connor. That is just my opinion. It is what it is. It's nice that it's nice that they're both included, because they both should be included. Elaine Verdago. Oh, is the gypsy in House of Frankenstein. And Gwen, the TNT girl. Trim, neat, and terrific. Shortest interview in history, 45 seconds. She was a beauty queen and swimsuit model. What did Anne Gwen star in? Gwen screamed her way through Black Friday, The Black Cat, The Strange Case of Dr. RX, House of Frankenstein, and Weird Woman. Not remembering who she is in House of Frankenstein right now. I will have to watch that movie this year. Iona Massey, son of Invisible Agent, not son of, and Elsa Frankenstein. She's a Frankenstein, you know. Aquanetta, who was Paula Dupree, the gorilla lady, Captive Wild Woman and Jungle Woman. So, and then Martha Vickers, Mary Gordon. Okay, so they don't even have Mae Clark in here, probably because she was only in the one movie. Because, I mean, Gloria Stewart, although... Oh, I guess Valerie Hobson was in Werewolf of London and Bride of Frankenstein. Monsters Walk Among Us, the continuation of the legacy. And so we got kind of it goes into the Hammer movies. Not doing each one, but it just talks about the Hammer horror, and also famous monsters of filmland, the things that helped carry over the monster legacy through the 60s and 70s, 80s. And the Munsters, of course. We got the relaunch coming, the Rob Zombie relaunch, but the original Munsters. Okay. And then chapter 26, the legacy continues. The biggest problem I have with this book is this part right here. And I don't know if this is the revised and updated part of the book. But it goes into the 2020 Invisible Man movie, giving it lots of picture space there, and a lot of coverage about. I'm losing my dust cover, and I'm losing my book. I don't want to damage this. I just got this. It's already damaged. Look at that. Shipping. That should be a cuss word. Shipping. And then it goes into the Monsters Among Us, which is the displays of the horror nights at Universal Studios, which would be cool to go to. Go in there and talk about the evolving look of horror. And then also this big mural that somebody who's a fine artist and muralist, Tristan Eaton, did. And then just some more other terrific artwork. And that's it. Okay, so why do I have a problem with chapter 26? Why do I have a problem with chapter 26? Well, let me tell you. I've been a Universal horror fan. That's right, I'm screaming at you. I've been a Universal horror fan since the late 80s. Since the 80s. So, almost 40 years. We'll say 35 years. And I've been there for the whole 35 years. So the fact that they boil down the legacy continues to cover one movie that is hoping to relaunch the rest of them, it kind of annoys me. Well, you know, I can't remember, but Bram Stoker's Dracula and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, I believe, are Warner Brothers and not Universal. So we don't have to count them. And then, of course, there's plenty of spin-off things with Dracula and Frankenstein in them. But they don't cover the Brendan Fraser mummy movies at all. I think they should, because I love them. They don't talk about Van Helsing, even though I have said in previous videos that watching it recently, it didn't quite hold up. And it's understandable that it was just a misstep in general. But it should have been in here. It should have been in here. The Steven Sohmer stuff should have. Even the Tom Cruise mummy movie should have been in here. It should have. They should have had talking about, hey, the dark universe or whatever that was that they were going to do, and it's going to be this whole big thing. It's like, oh, you think Marvel has their own cinematic universe? Well, we had it first, mister. And then it just totally went away. But instead, they focus on this one movie. 2020's The Invisible Man. So I will admit that I have a big problem with this movie. I actually only have one problem with this movie, and that is this word right here. The Invisible Man. If it had been called A Invisible Man, or An Invisible Man, or just Invisible Man, I would have probably really enjoyed this movie. Because it's not a bad movie. It's a good movie, but it's not The Invisible Man. It's just my opinion. Of course, it's always my opinion. It just tramples all over the Claude Rains one, and I know Claude Rains turns into a murderous killer and is basically just a bossy jerk throughout the whole entire movie. There's no reason for you to be like, hey, this guy's great. But this Invisible Man, is just a complete schmuck. And he doesn't take any powder. He has a camera suit that reflects the image behind him. It's like the plane from I Spy, the movie with Owen Wilson and Eddie Murphy. That's what they decided to go with for this. So as long as it wasn't supposed to be a remake of The Invisible Man, I would have really enjoyed it. But it's not. But you know what I think it is? A really great prequel to The Invisible Woman, which hopefully they will make with Elizabeth Moss, because there is no reason for them not to. Is there? Bum, bum, bum. So maybe because I didn't like this movie as much, I kind of felt like them including so much of it in that chapter 26 and nothing of any of the mummy movies that I super enjoy kind of gave me just like a lot of bad taste in my mouth. So, there. How's that for? Rhythm of speech. Anyway, so it's a great book. I'm glad I have it. It's going to be put place of honor on my shelf. Brought out every year to flip through whenever I want information. Maybe I should start talking about... Oh, sorry. I just saw a photo. They didn't include Madame Zelensky, Gloria Holden in there. Maybe because she was a main person and not a fright queen or whatever. Or Nan Gray. They kind of skip over people in there. But it's got great photos to look at. Wait, this is Frankenstein, and I am looking for Bela Lugosi. No, I'm not. I'm looking for... So one of the information things that they got here, Boris Karloff said, his birth name was William Henry Pratt. And he changed it to Boris Karloff, claimed that his grandmother's name was Korloff, family name was Karloff, but there was no evidence to support that. But he said that he changed it, later joking, after all, no one can't be an... after all, I can't do the lisp of Boris Karloff. I cannot do the lisp of Boris Karloff. After all, one can't be an actor and be called Pratt. So, sorry, Chris. All right, that's the book review. I'm going to put the slipcover back on real quick. That's the book review of Michael Mallory's Universal Studios Monster, A Legacy of Horror. Got, always interesting which ones they decide to put on there. Because, it's kind of like The Wild Woman. Aquanetta gets kind of a big billing there. And The Creature and Rondo. And Bud Habit. There's Frankenstein, The Mummy, Invisible Man, and Wolfman, and then the only Dracula, they have the John Carradine Dracula on there instead of Bela Lugosi. Published by Universal Publishing, a division of Rizzoli International. Copyright 2021. And so there you go. I think it's available at all of your good local booksellers. Well, maybe not local booksellers, but all of your good booksellers. And if you are a fan of the Universal Studio Monsters and can't get enough, you want to know more, then I would check it out, because it sure is chock full of monstery goodness and the main man Frankenstein himself. All right, there we go. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope I didn't spoil too much, or maybe I got you enticed into getting this book. The photos are really what sell it for me. It's just beautiful. And it's got great information in there about the actors that we love. Even though, you probably get more out of like a biography or any type thing like that. And so that leaves us with... That's it. Okay. If you want a spooky good read during Halloween, I would check this guy out. All right. Bye-bye.